Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today, we're going to go down a musical journey, and not just any type of musical journey. We're going to go into the creative mind of a young man who's clearly setting a new trend in the musical industry with not only the instrument that he chose as his choice, but how that instrument got him all the way to the Grammys to perform with some of the greatest names in the musical industry. I'd like to welcome to the show all the way from South Carolina, the one, the only, the new Grammy nominee. Let's call it what it is, Mr. Hank Bilal. Welcome to the show, Hank.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I got the last name right. Bilal is Islamic, correct?
Yep, sure is.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. Let's tell the viewers a little bit about who Hank Bilal actually is. Let's go way back to when we were first introduced to the music industry.
Well, I grew up in a small town called Winsboro, South Carolina, which is about a few miles north of the state capital, Columbia. Okay. I grew up, as a church boy, playing, coming up in the church, singing on the choir at about 5 years old, and I had uncles that played instruments, and my dad played an instrument too. And just coming up, seeing them, play their instruments, it made me want to play something as well. So eventually, I got into learning instruments and stuff, and trombone was my first instrument. I held one. I maybe not knew what I was doing at the time, but I held a trombone at 5 years old. My grandma had got me a trombone, found a trombone for about $50 in the shop. So
hey Hank, let me ask you a question. You said you grew up in the church. Before that trombone got in your hand, did you pick the trombone because you couldn't sing?
No, actually, I picked the trombone. Well, my uncles, they had a band. They had a brass band actually. They just of two families. Mainly my family, but another family, and the core instrument was a trombone.
Okay.
And it was mostly trombones. You had other instruments, other brass instruments too, a baritone, a tuba, and some trombones and stuff. So trombone was the forefront instrument. Actually, I come from the Holiness Church, where horns were a big thing too, and we had a lot of trombones. Organization called the United House of Prayer, which is known for those instruments or whatnot. And trombone ended up being the main instrument, I guess, because it's closer to the human voice, more than anything else. So between the reins and the little stuff that slide does, all that stuff is kind of similar to the trombone. So the trombone ended up being the main core, instrument in that brass band situation.
So let me ask the question. You tapped on something that even I probably didn't know, but I kind of see what you're talking about, but my mind is going to New Orleans. You don't really have to sing, I guess, because like you said, the trombone was an instrument, one of the brass instruments that actually became the vocal piece versus maybe playing the guitar or saxophone. Is that kind of like what you guys, how you grew up, those instruments basically did the vocals for you guys, is what I'm saying.
Actually, and it ended up being the most animated, animated instrument. Speaking of animated instrument, it's something, you hear a lot of times in the cartoons, in the old school cartoons.
When they go like this, when they go,
it almost sounds like a person crying a little bit.
Oh my goodness. So out of all the other instruments, what other instruments is comprised of a band like that you grew up in? And what's the difference between the South Carolina style of music versus New Orleans versus maybe a Midwest type? Are there different sounds for different regions?
Yeah, I would say there is, and you can actually almost kind of hear it, that sound, that southern. I guess a southern sound is a type of sound.
Yeah,
I guess more so, church based. I guess if anything else, more so church based. But it all kind of comes out the South when you really think about it. Whether it be in the Midwest, I feel like all the origins, music come out the South.
right,
Uh,
right.
you know, uh, Going deep as to Mississippi, of course,
Yeah,
which is the actual birthplace, was considered the birthplace of music in the United States. But and I guess over time, people end up developing their own styles and stuff, but I guess you can listen to the sound, whether it be whether the genre, whether what the genre be, you can actually tell when something is, southern influenced. And
right.
I guess you can tell when it has, I guess, a style has migrated, further up north or further out west,
Mhm.
and the adaptation and all the other stuff, um, at some point in time, I guess that's what causes the differences in music. It's those regions.
Right. You were there other instruments that was introduced to you besides the trombone? Because you said you guys played as a family, cohesive unit,
Yeah.
but was it customary to be a perfectionist with one instrument, or was it encouraged to actually know several other instruments? Because you just indicated that these instruments were the vocals. And that's why I'm trying to teach the viewers, I guess, that the way you guys communicated was through these brass type instruments. So were there other instruments that was introduced to you uh, besides the trombone?
Well, yeah, it's baritone. Some people know it. Some people call it the baritone. Some people call it the euphonium. But you have the baritone. Brass instrument. I mastered. Tuba, sousaphone. I've been introduced to that. Trumpet. Just a little bit of trumpet. But more so. Not more so a trumpet, cause it's well. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. My lips too big to play the trumpet. So, but but I do know the fingering of a trumpet. I could tell a trumpet player what things to play, but because it's just an upper octave of the baritone. That's all what a trumpet is really. So I could I know of trumpet. Pretty much all the valve instruments. I'm pretty knowledgeable of. Piano, which is in another category, of course. But I've been introduced to piano, and I play piano as much as I play the trombone now. Between church and being a minister of music in the church, and also just doing random things and weddings and recordings on the piano and stuff. And so yeah, piano. I got introduced to piano maybe about six, 15, 16. I never was really trained in piano, but I end up just learning it, eventually, just by going up to the piano. Every time I saw a piano, I used to walk up to one and just play it. But what kind of gave me a head start in learning piano was the fact that I knew about chords already. I knew about chords playing the trombone.
Right.
So that's what kind of taught me how to, and being on that brass band, kind of taught me how to play a keyboard. So next thing you know, I'm in college, playing, making my money, playing for churches and stuff, and that's kind of pretty much how I end up surviving, while I was at college.
So Hank, do you know how to read music on all these different instruments?
Well, I'm not as good as reading music on the piano, but trombone, yeah, because it's my clef, it's the bass clef, and I haven't started really reading the treble clef yet. I read the treble clef, but I probably end up kind of writing the notes in and just kind of taking a little more time
Hmm.
uh reading treble clef and on top of that trying to read treble and bass clef at the same time.
Right.
Piano requires you to do so. Like if anything, me if I have a piece of sheet music that's that's a piano sheet piece of sheet. What I do, I start with the bass clef, with the bass holds your notes, holds your changes anyway. Then I work my way up. But for the most part, I'm a bass clef person. Trombone, baritone, sousaphone, those are all a part of that clef. So that's pretty much where I'm at. And sometimes somebody might give me a piece of sheet music that's written in treble clef, but I just have to learn to adapt, most of the time.
When you let's go back to your college career, and you mentioned something that you said that the ability to play different instruments and read music paid, and the college is expensive. Um, when did when did the shift take place for you to decide that you wanted to venture off on your own, and what was that process like?
The shift pretty much, um, I guess wanting to try something new,
Mhm.
wanted to take that step, I guess at some point, in our lives, we wanted to take that step and go a little further. And so I guess that that's where that came in at. And I guess the older I got, the more bolder, I became, and just want to take things up to another level.
Mhm.
And because I guess I was a person who got bored easily, and I always want to do something, like whether I was 5 years old or whether I was 25 years old. I always want to do something, be involved in something or
Right.
whatnot. So I guess with all that being said, uh, you know my ambition, I end up, my ambition let me, you know, want to do more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. So I guess towards, once I got towards the end of college and I found out, I was like, what is it that I really wanted to do? So
Right.
I just, on faith and just took the next step and decided to just, be more of a front man
Mhm.
and, just being more of a, being more of an influence and, all that good stuff.
Were there because you indicated to me uh that you was kind of the individual that wanted to stay in the background, that so to speak. But what were some of the difficult challenges that you had to endure, because clearly being a master at all of these musical instruments is tough. But were there outside issues that you had to deal with that made that journey even more difficult for you?
Well, I say, I guess if anything, I guess doubters, haters, and just, I guess, regular distractions all around, whether it be, TV, internet, just different things, that were easily distractions and
Mm.
that, I guess, some things, there are a few things that kind of, may tried to get in the way, but but I guess the spirit of determination, kind of pulled me through and it let me do what I do. It let me accomplish my mission that I had to accomplish. So yeah, there were a few distractions along the way, and just being I guess being afraid to fail, and then actually failing and having the you know I guess ambition to keep going. And you know, it's easier said than done. But
Right.
you know, I guess once some a situation, um, you know, like once you're in a situation, like it's a little challenging. But you know, by the end of the day, you know your purpose, and you know what it is that you came to do by the end of the day. So you know, you just got to keep the mindset of you know of keep going
You
and
mentioned
you just prospering.
you did mention that you did fail at least one particular point in your life. What was that one particular point that you felt that you had fallen and you had to literally get up, and what was that like?
Well, well, at, at a point, you know, I may, you know, have end up being, you know, very discouraged, and you know, and I want to know, you know, what was, you know, like what was like my purpose, and you know, things weren't, you know, weren't. I guess things weren't tight, you know, as far as you know, as far as life was concerned, you know, I want to be more financially, you know, stable, and I want to, I want to really, you know what it is that that I was out to do.
Mhm.
And but you know, I guess with faith and determination, you know, you eventually end up, you know, getting through it, and and you end up overcoming and knowing your purpose, you know, at some point in time, you end up, you know, finding out that. But I say you know, just being a man of faith, uh, that would kind of help me, you know, do what I had to do, and it made me realize, uh, I got a job to do, and people are watching, and
Mhm.
I have to make I got to make my hometown proud, you know, make my family proud. So you know, I guess those things, just knowing those things that make me, you know, keep my head on straight and make me, have that tunnel vision and keep going and keep going.
You mentioned the strong bond and connections that your family and your friends have.
Mhm.
Were how big of a support were they for you in understanding your purpose? Because like you said earlier when we first started talking, they introduced you to these instruments. So I take it that
Mhm.
music is in the blood from
It
generation to
is.
generation for you. How closely woven is your family, and how instrumental are they in helping you navigate your purpose?
Well, actually, well, you know, with me growing up in a holiness church and stuff, you know, a lot of them actually didn't really understand at first, you know, that what I was doing. And I mean, even though I actually I had an uncle who was trombonist for Bobby Womack, actually.
Bobby
But
Womack, the Bobby Womack.
yeah, yeah, I didn't know this, you know, till later on, till after Bobby Womack passed away. My mama was telling me that he was a trombonist for Bobby Womack, in which he's a trombonist, but he was a pianist as well. So he was definitely an inspiration in music. But he was one of the people in my family that really took that step. But you know, a lot of them, you know, were, even though they were, you know, in the church and instrumentalists and stuff, they still had, you know, regular, you know, everyday jobs, you know, like, working in the school district or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
Like it may have taken some of them to a while to really, you know, be hip to what I was doing. And I guess have an understanding of this is what I want to do. But you know, they're definitely, supportive. You know, now they're listening to my music, and they saw the hard work that I put in is paying off.
Right.
So I guess, no matter who you are, once you see somebody, putting in work, and and they're actually, reaping the benefits,
Right.
you got no choice but to be like, be so congratulating, because just as one hard working person to the next, I gotta, hey, I gotta give it up to whoever, and vice versa, like
So when you got that opportunity, let's move forward a little bit because your resume clearly shows ambition and hard work. Let's call it what it is. But
Mhm.
also to get that ambition, hard work, there were blueprints that was put in place. And according to what I'm hearing, the blueprint actually started with a great foundation of family structure and friends and a support mechanism. You wind up getting a major opportunity to go to the Grammys. What was that like, and how did that unfold for you?
Wow. I was 17 when I played on the Grammys. Actually, well, I was 16 when I got invited to play, and just a few years. I mean, just a few days after my 17th birthday, I was out there. I was out there at the Grammys performing. Actually, I helped arrange the music for our portion of the Grammys, which was the gospel portion, featuring Aretha Franklin, BB Winans, Trinity 5-7, and the Clark sisters, featuring all those, and Big Jim. Big Jim was the MD. So it's pretty much, Big Jim was the guy who was doing all the major shows. Now it's Adam Blackstone, but back then, Big Jim, he passed away around 2018. Matter of fact, he passed away right after Aretha Franklin had passed away. But working with him and working with some awesome musicians, and that was my first time seeing that, being in that. Well, I had a taste of being in uh, auditoriums and stuff, but that was my taste of, I guess, being in Hollywood, or
Right.
the industry, right? And I had a great time, and I wish I was kind of young. I was young, so I ain't really get to enjoy everything I wanted to enjoy, but I still had a good time, and I met a lot of people, got a few autographs, and actually I still got my Grammy book from then, and that was the 50th Grammys I
Really?
was a part of. Yep, the 50th Grammys.
Now that you look back on that at such a young age, uh,
Mm-hmm.
what now that looking back now, that's the 50th Grammy Award. That's big because that's half of that
Mm-hmm.
decade. But you at 17, what really registers in your mind looking back now? What would you tell the 17-year-old then versus now?
Um, hmm. I say, um don't give up. The roads gets rough, but you got to keep being consistent. Um, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. You can do anything you set your mind to. I pretty much say that. And don't pay attention to naysayers.
Mhm.
Do what you got to do. Take care of business, and and do people the right way.
Because I think what happens is you said something that was really profound. Um,
Mhm.
you were 17 years old, and at 17 years old, your mind probably didn't even really understand the big opportunity that lied in front of you. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
now if you look back and probably was like, well, man, maybe I should have took that opportunity to make more contacts or did this or did this or did that, because at 17 years old, that's pretty, pretty, it's major. But when you get
But you know what though?
when
I,
you
I wish I wish that was the era. I wish that was the time. Well, it was the social media and thing and all that other stuff. It wasn't as big,
right,
and stuff in it, and the technology, wasn't as like, it wasn't like that, back then. I kind of wish it was, the thing how how technology and everything is right now. I kind of wish it was like that at that time. It would
I
have been
think we all
more.
be doing that too. Be going like, man, I say that constantly. Man, I wish we had this technology back then. You know what I mean? And you probably would have went viral and so forth. But you got to perform with the legend herself, Aretha Franklin. Like, what was that even like for you at that age?
Oh man, it was great. It was a great opportunity. Um, yeah, it was something that I guess one of life once in a lifetime things or whatnot. And just knowing that I was on the stage with the Queen of Soul herself. A lot of people back home was excited for me. Coming from a little rural area, that's a big deal. Just being on TV,
Yeah,
even being on,
prime time
yeah,
TV too. Yeah.
yeah. So, and my people back home was definitely proud of me. And Aretha Franklin it was a joy to work with her. And she, like it was great. It was great meeting her, and her musical genius. Being present, and and a chance to meet other people in the process. Because she had other people rehearse for her.
Okay.
Yeah, and she came to sound check. So
Really?
I got a chance to meet Faith Hill. Faith Hill Faith Hill actually rehearsed for Aretha Franklin, and then Aretha Franklin sound check next day. Yep.
I wonder what their impression was of you at 17 at the 50th Grammy, actually being in charge of the arrangement of uh, all of this event. I mean, did anybody come up to you and say anything of like, how did you learn how to do this? How old are you? Or did you carry yourself in a more adult manner that they didn't even realize you was probably 17 years old?
And they probably didn't. They might not even have realized I was 17 years old. But then at the same time, I'm in LA, so that's what 17-year-olds do.
When let's move a little further here. So you're now out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You have several albums that are out. Do you write your own music? How did all this journey come for you now that you're producing your own albums, you're writing your own music? What was that like for you? Was it scary? And how difficult was it to put that first album out?
Well, it was kind of scary, and it's knowing that that's the really the next level. A lot of people are afraid to take that step. As far as album, I have a friend right now. I've been getting on for years. He had me play on a. He actually he paid me too. He paid me to play on an album. I mean, on a song that he never released in years. It's like maybe 19, 20, 21. It's 5 years later, and he hasn't released it yet. And I've been getting on him. I say, man, take the next step. But then I realized once you take the next step, it's like no going back. So I can understand people's procrastination as far as releasing music, because once you release it, it's no step back. It's no taking no steps back, and you have to go forward. And next thing you know, you have to do the promotion for it. Then maybe even a video or whatever for it.
Right.
But I took all those things into account, but I didn't let those things stop me. From doing it, because I'm a musician, and I feel like that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to, create music, for people around the world to listen to. And I was, I guess, around the time this was the last, I guess the later days of the CD era. So it was a money maker too. It was a chance to make money. Some people still buy CDs, but around 2014, 15, those were the last years people I guess the cars were being made that, you know, had CD players.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, I stepped out on faith, and it was scary, because it was the next journey. It was literally the next journey, and you know, it was a little easy. I made it a little easy for myself by, you know, having doing some gospel covers
Mhm.
and stuff. I had a few original songs on the album, which was some stuff I had in my head, and you know, some stuff was just, you know, humming, you know, in my head when I was in the car or in the shower or whatever, and I just, you know, I put it out some years ago, and you know, people liked it, and you know, just me being in church, coming out to church and stuff, you know, that's what I knew was gospel, you know, and I did some gospel with, you know, some smooth jazz,
Okay.
you know, well.
Now, when you mentioned something before we wrap up here, you mentioned something that you you mentioned about your friend
Yeah.
and the fact that you saw potential in him so much so
Mm-hmm.
that you probably would have allowed your music to accommodate his work without even
Yeah.
asking for compensation. So this is a two-part question. Are there moments that you feel, if you feel this strong about the song or the project, would you have taken the project um, from him to show the potential not only in him, but the fact that you guys created a project together? And then, hold on, excuse me. Then the second part of this is how much of your income, because it appears that in the music industry, you have to have some financial resources to do all this. How much of this is you, and how much of this is outside investors coming into you believing in you?
Well, all of it's me.
Huh?
I say all of it's me. It's
Oh, all of it's you?
yeah, 100% fund everything. Yeah, I wish I had investors, but you know, but then you know, but then again, it's even more rewarding, you know, once you realize that you've done it all by yourself. And I
Mhm.
guess that's why work is too. You know, between playing in church, playing in the horn sections, doing gigs as an artist, studio session, whatever it is, as a musician, I probably do.
Well,
And as far as my friend, actually, I wish it's funny. I wish I could take my solo back.
hey,
That was
after he hears this
solo.
podcast, he may tell you can have it back. So
Yeah, but it was fun though. It was fun working on it, you know. But unfortunately he didn't release it yet.
what makes that particular release special to you? Because you clearly believe in this particular project. What is it about it that you feel it can probably go viral?
Well, I say for one, I like to see other people, you know, I like to see other people succeed as well. You know, it's one thing, you know, me doing something, but you know, knowing somebody else I know doing that did something, and they actually, you know, paid me to do it. You know, he didn't ask me to do it as a favor. He said, man, hey, how much would you charge? Man, I say for you, man, I charge you $100, you know, to do a solo or whatever. So you know, I charged them, and you know, and for him not to release it, you know, most people would have, you know, released it. I said, man, what you waiting on? I mean, I've been getting on him for 2 years, and I just stopped, you know, getting on him. But hopefully, he's doing something with the track, or
Right.
whether he's adding something to it, or whatever it may be. But I feel like, you know, recordings is, I guess, how you solidify yourself. I guess it's one way to solidify yourself as an artist.
Hmm. Before
It's by having those recordings. I feel like, you know, people you know, they'll take you, you know, even more serious, you know, once you have those kind of, you know, things out. Because I feel like it shows a legitimacy of what you're doing as a musician once you have these recordings out. Because you go somewhere like Atlanta, you know, the whole band got an album, you know. So, you know, certain places, Atlanta, LA, New York, everybody on the band, all the background musicians even have, projects out. So, I say that's the one thing that, I guess, let, that you can say, I guess the legitimacy of your artistry, I guess that's what these tracks show, is legitimacy of your artistry. So I feel I encourage all artists. If you say you're an artist, then
Right.
you should be putting out singles. You should be putting out some kind of thing that people can listen to, on Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon, whatever it may be.
Right.
There is. I feel like it's a requirement.
Okay. You now, before we wrap up, you now have a new track out. Tell me about the track. How can the viewers get a hold of that track? How can the viewers reach out to you for guest appearances and so forth?
Well, you can reach out. Well, everything. If you go to my website, that will pretty much take you to everywhere you gotta go. Whether my music, whether my bio or my EPK, like literally everything is on my website, hankbilalmusic.com. And Hank Bilal Music is my YouTube. Hank Bilal Music is my Facebook. It's my Twitter, uh, Instagram. If Black Planet was still around, it'll be that too. Uh,
I forgot all about that. Forgot about
so
yeah.
Hank Bilal Music, and and somebody can just type it in on Google, and all that stuff will pop up. My Amazon, my Spotify, my Apple Music, and Hank Bilal. I think it's one Hank Bilal on Earth. It might not. I don't think it's enough. So
Okay.
that's me.
Well, I tell you what, Hank, thank you so much. It's actually been a pleasure having you on the show and taking us down that journey of truly wonderful inspiration of performing at the 50th Grammy at the age of 50 years old, taking your heritage and spreading it around and basically being an impact to others throughout this world. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.